Cyber Brigade President Frank Bravata joins this week to discuss news from Ingram Micro and Microsoft and the 2022 ChannelPro vendors on the Vanguard, plus a special guest interview with Analysys Mason's Bob Takacs on the SMB tech spending landscape in 2022. It's ChannelPro Weekly number 225, Tech Babysitters. Hello and welcome to ChannelPro Weekly episode number 225. My name is Matt Whitlock, technology editor, online director, and your host of this fine show for folks like you, the VARs, the IT integrators, the IT consultants, the managed services, security providers, what other, there's a whole bunch of acronyms for the IT world. And if you are one of those, you are in the right place. If you are a professional window washer on a skyscraper, be careful, don't fall. But you're welcome to tune in as well and learn new skills and learn about what maybe other people on the other side of the glass are working with, so you can understand that as well. So welcome one and all. Joining me this week and most weeks is the man of the hour at ChannelPro, the executive editor, the guy who does all this cool stuff, so that way you are informed of what's going on out there. Please welcome Rich Freeman.
And for those of you who are watching on video, you can see that I'm doing the show this week from the world's most generic conference room. You would never know that I'm in Miami.
It does look like a conference room, so no doubt there. Very nice. So you're on the road. So where you're in? You said Miami. What are you doing in Miami?
So Ingram Micro is holding their annual cloud summit here this week. This is actually the first time they've done it. They've been able to do it in person since 2019. And it's kind of nice to be back doing a cloud summit event. So yeah, lots of shows rolling. The conference circuit is flying. There's shows, it seems like, all the time. In fact, we just wrapped a virtual event yesterday for our Fine Biometrics team. That was a really cool kind of event on travel and hospitality. Interesting stuff. But the ChannelPro Events circuit is also rolling, and one's coming up awfully fast, even though it seems like we just finished one. Rich, where are we going? Doesn't it always feel that way? We just finished an event and we're just about to do an event. That is how it goes here at ChannelPro, and that's a great thing for you because it means we are all over the place. We are everywhere you are, and you have an opportunity to attend our shows. And the next one we are doing is on June 6th and 7th. 6th is the pre-day, 7th is the main day. It is in Dallas, Texas. We are at a hotel not too far from DFW, and we will be presenting the content that has been, take it from me, I'm a biased source, but this content has been a hit at the two cities that we've presented it at already this year, Newark, New Jersey, and Chicago just a few weeks ago. And we're talking about employee hiring and retention and doing that in a very fun game show kind of way. We're talking about cybersecurity also in a fun kind of way. We have people telling real world stories, sort of nightmare stories about security that are also instructive. We are talking about opportunities in Microsoft Azure and strategies for navigating the M&A landscape and the strategic landscape and managed services generally right now. So it's all the stuff that's top of mind for you folks. And there is still room for you to join us in Dallas, June 6th and 7th. Head on out to events.channelpronetwork.com, events.channelpronetwork.com, and look for the link to our Dallas show, and please sign up. We hope to see you out there. Yeah, and I can make that journey a little shorter for those who are listening and watching. So if you're listening right now, go to channelproforum.com/Dallas. That'll take you right to the registration page. Or if you're watching on YouTube, hit the like button, hit the bell notification, all those buttons that YouTube makes you hit, but you got to press them all. Leave a comment, awesome stuff. But also, we're going to put a graphic on the screen. There's a QR code on it. Scan it. It'll take you right to the registration page as well. Use promo code CPVIP. That will get you in the door for free. But I guarantee you're going to get a lot out of the event. There's prizes. Rich, this is actually like probably one of the most fun content packages we've had. We always try to inject a lot of fun in the ChannelPro events, but this is probably like the most fun we've had at a show. I mean, there's so much good stuff in there. The stuff that regular listeners will know, the thing we always like to say is at ChannelPro, we're going to feed you your broccoli, but we're going to make it taste good. And I think the broccoli is especially fresh, like the content that you're coming away with is real and valuable, but it tastes even better than ever. There is a lot of fun this time around too. So honestly, it's been kind of gratifying doing these shows so far and seeing how much the audiences seem to appreciate it. Because there is a lot of effort, folks, that goes into thinking through and planning and executing these things, and so you want people to come away from it feeling like it was a good use of their time, and so far that seems to have been the vibe.
Yeah, the feedback's been off the charts. So if you're anywhere in the Dallas area, make sure you register. Make sure you go. It is awesome. And I'm just going to leave one word out here so you can entice you to come. Inflatable tigers. That's all I'm going to say. You'll have to come to the show to figure out what that is all about. So make sure you do that. Great stuff. So, Rich, you're in Miami. You're doing the shows, but we are not alone. We have someone who is not in a generic conference room who we're gonna bring on in, our guest host today. So excited he's here because he's actually been a speaker at our events in the past. So it's awesome that we've got him on the show after this long while. He is a technology expert, a serial entrepreneur. And I said serial entrepreneur, not serial killer. Those are two very, very, very different things. Serial entrepreneur, a public speaker, best-selling author, and a veteran supporter. His company, Cyber Brigade, leverages his military experience to bring cutting-edge cybersecurity and technology solutions to his clients. Please welcome the president of Cyber Brigade, Frank Bravata. Welcome, Frank.
Hey, thanks for having me. I'm so excited to be here. This is going to be awesome.
Yeah, it's great to have you on. It's a name that we've that I wanted to see on the show sheet for a while. So it's really, really great that you're here. And I know you can even attest to our events as being worthwhile to attend. So I'm going to give you an opportunity just to say to our audience, your opinion, worth going or not worth going?
Oh, it's absolutely worth going. I just attended Newark, and I actually brought a brand new first week employee with me just to kind of throw him into the deep end and let him see what was going on at these things. And he had a great time. He took lots of notes. He's like, there's so much more to this than just, motherboards and modems and all this. And he was so excited. He was a young kid. He's 22. And, he's just getting his start in IT. And I'm like, this is going to be a great way to just throw him into it. And the first thing he said to me on the drive home was, when do we get to do one of those again? So you guys obviously are doing a good job with everything. So it was great.
Awesome. I didn't pay him $1 to say any of that stuff. So awesome stuff. Thanks, Frank, so much for coming on. Since you're new to the show, please take a few moments and tell our listening audience and our viewing audience a little bit more about you and your company, Cyber Brigade.
Okay, so I got my start in IT in the military. 2000, I joined the Army and got thrown into this world of IT. I was always good with computers, never had any experience on a resume to get any, sort of position. So that was my first, putting my toe in the shallow end. And from there, from the military, I transitioned to civilian life, got a job at an MSP New York City. 2008, the economy tanked, and all of a sudden I was unemployed. And I'm like, I can do this. I don't need to go work for someone else. I'm a terrible employee anyway. I don't punch the time clock. I don't even like filling out my tickets half the time. Let me just, I can't fire myself, so I'm going to be a good boss. And from there, I started my company in 2009. Everything was good. I discovered my love for marketing even as much as IT, and really combining the two of those really just worked out really well for us. 2017, we rebranded as Cyber Brigade to really take advantage of my military experience, but more importantly, how we like hiring veterans, and really, they're a good source. I know staffing is a challenge nowadays. I don't have any problem with getting people because I just snatch people as they're coming out of military life, say, here, have a good job. Let's use those skills you have. And it's really been great for us. And here we are, 13 years later, I still can't believe, I am in business and things are really going quite well. And I'm just thrilled.
That's awesome. So tell me a little bit about how your military background and the things that you learned in IT is kind of helping you today. Because as you said, you're also grabbing a lot of people leaving the military even today.
So, when I got started in the Army, the Army is always a bit behind. It was 2000. They were still rolling out, NT4 servers at that point. But it gave me enough of experience to really just start to understand the concepts, even if the technology was a little dated. And then from there, I really, I latched on to things like the military's love for processes and checklists and all that other stuff that translates so well into IT that, really just finding a love for documentation, as mundane and as boring as it is, really has helped us. So when we take on a new client, we have our processes just rolled out, and it's not a new project. It's just the same old, because same old might be boring, but same old is really profitable in IT. So the more we can standardize, the more we can do all those sort of things to just, kind of cookie cutter it. So we know we're giving a good result for our clients. Things are really great. And then really just that military experience also just helped me to find like really good people that, sometimes we get people who weren't ready to get out of the military. Like they might've gotten injured or something like that. And it's like, hey, you can use those skills you learned. We're going to try to run, a well-oiled machine here. So you're going to kind of fit into, what we're doing here, at least culture-wise. And, it just works, quite well for us.
That's really interesting. So tell us a little bit more about the transition that you kind of had to go through, leaving the military and kind of getting into civilian life. How was that really challenging, going from military into a business, or are you doing things that kind of make that easier for the people that you bring in?
Well, going through it myself, I try to ease the entire process now. I know what it's like, going, the military is a whole different beast. You wake up at 4 a.m., you do PT, you do more stuff before breakfast than most people do in their whole day. And really harnessing that amount of motivation and giving them a way to outlet it in beneficial ways to them, beneficial to our company, beneficial to our clients, really is, a game changer for us, I feel. Like I tell my techs, it's 5 o'clock, you're off, go home. And it's like, but no, I want to finish this. And, you really, I feel like there's a different breed of tech when you get someone with some military experience, and, our clients love it.
Do you make your employees do PT before breakfast, or is that something?
No, we should, but I don't know if my workers' comp would like that. So
that's awesome. Hey, go ahead, Rich.
Well, I got to jump in here because connecting veterans coming out of the military to jobs in IT is just such a natural fit. I mean, at any time, but especially right now, for the reasons you were kind of saying. I mean, that everybody is shorthanded out there. People with tech talent coming out of the military who are looking for jobs. We want to help them get jobs. For anyone in the audience here who's thinking, man, I like the sound of those, of people who want to stay at the office later. I have to make them go home. Where can folks go to find people who have recently exited the military and talk to them about joining their company?
So what I actually do, this is one of my secrets, is I work with a staffing company that specializes in finding vets, and they don't find vets when they're already home. They start talking to vets, are you transitioning out, 9 months from now? The government actually has a new program. I just found out, I don't have all the specifics, but where they'll actually let them transition out early to try to help them make that, a smoother process for them. And you even get some tax benefits where the government actually pays part of their salary for the first 60 or 120 days, so that they're technically on payroll for the military, but they're working in your company, helping to smooth that migration.
Very interesting. So tell me a little bit more about you outside of Cyber Brigade. What other kinds of things do you like to do? What other interests? Anything that you find helps end the day in an enjoyable way?
Yeah, I don't get much free time between my business, 4 kids. My son lives in Florida, so I'm down there once a month. Other than that, I love the outdoors. I'm in the process of working out and getting better in shape. Too many conferences, partying all night, too many business lunches. So I'm down 60 pounds now, and I'm working on that. And other than that, I'm trying to take it, a little bit easier in my older days. I'm trying not to be the guy yelling at the kids to get off my lawn. But we just bought a new house. I'm working from home now. During the pandemic, we actually disbanded our office. It was just a big expense no one went to anyway. So really, I know I could trust my guys. I know I could trust them to work from home. It's a big benefit to them. We still all meet up when we need to, but it's just, if I'm telling my clients, you can work from anywhere, why aren't we, taking the same advantage? And it really is great. We opened up a second office in New York City. It's just something, I have someone there, a couple times a week now. But it's in a co-working place, and we're getting so many good leads from it. Instead of just being in our own traditional office where we close the door, we don't talk to anyone. If I have a tech who doesn't have anything to do, I say, go work at the other office. Just go make friends. They see what we're doing. It's a great time to talk about cybersecurity with all the public Wi-Fi we're using and everything there. But we're saying, hey, we can work here. You guys should be able to, while being protected. And then other than that, I love the outdoors. I hike, I travel a lot. I just got back from Cancun 6 weeks ago, and going to Aruba in 2 weeks. So benefits of working from anywhere,
Awesome. Very cool. Well, and it's great to have you on, like I said. So, and I'm sure we'll learn a little bit more about you as we get deeper into the show, and we've got some things we're going to talk about. Feel free to chime in, and yeah, it's going to be great. So what do we got coming up? Well, we're going to talk about some news. Rich has got a couple of stories about Ingram Micro that we're going to dive into. We're going to talk about the 2022 ChannelPro vendors on the Vanguard, a story that comes out every year. We're going to dive into that as well. And we got an awesome interview coming up with Bob Takacs. He's the research director at Analysys Mason. We're going to talk about SMB tech spending. Very, very interesting discussion. You're not going to want to miss that. And of course, we're going to have some fun along the way. So strap in, folks. We are going to dive right in. Rich, Ingram Micro launches something, as these all companies all launch something. What are they launching this week?
So they are launching something that at various times they will call a digital experience or a digital twin. And there are going to be a lot of people in the audience who are going to say it's a portal, but they're very insistent at Ingram that this is not a portal. So let me just kind of rewind the clock a little bit. And very late in 2019, I was attending a different Ingram conference, and I had a conversation with Paul Bay, who today is the CEO of the company. He wasn't in that post just yet, but I spoke with him and Kirk Robinson, who runs the business for them in North America. And both of them emphasized that a big push for them going forward was going to be around partner satisfaction and partner experience. They wanted to make it much easier for their partners to work with Ingram, both because obviously that leads to partner and client retention, but also because if you remove some of that friction, you can do more business. Basically, everybody can actually sell more and make more money. So as we record this story officially broke 2 hours ago. What they unveiled today during the Cloud Summit is a big kind of down pay or payment on. I won't say down payment because some months back they introduced something that they call the flexible subscription engine. That was probably the first down payment on this whole partner experience push, where they were kind of making it much easier to handle cloud subscriptions. What they unveiled today is something that they're calling Xvantage. You might think about it basically as a portal, but what it's meant to be is a digital twin, a digital version of everything and everyone that you interact with when you're doing business with Ingram, and it's all going to be in one place, and you're going to be using it. So are the people at Ingram. This is not just a partner-facing tool. This faces internal as well. So are the vendors who sell through Ingram and through you to your end users. And part of the idea here is we're going to get everybody on one platform, one interface. We're all going to be able to, there will be one version of the truth, basically, for all of us to share. It's going to make collaborating among these different communities a lot easier. Also, to some extent today, and to a greater extent even further on, as this platform rolls out. And I should say this, they unveiled it today, they described it today. It will become available to Ingram partners officially over the course of the summer here in the US and in Germany, and then they'll be kind of adding it in different parts of the world slowly from there. But when it is really out there in the hands of Ingram partners, it will replace a lot of separate tools that you're using right now to get various kinds of things done with Ingram, and you'll be able to do everything from research products and solutions, quoting, invoicing, billing, financing, training, marketing materials, everything that you might get online or over the phone from Ingram, you'll be able to get here significantly. So I mean, that right there, it's the single pane of glass. It's the one place to go to do whatever you have to do with your distribution partner. Part of what's significant about this from Ingram's point of view is that it will be rolling together separate tools that people use right now for the cloud business and the physical business. And there's a lot of talk in distribution right now about the opportunity to combine physical infrastructure, whether that's endpoints or networking gear, with cloud solutions in one package. One of the statistics that they trotted out a lot here at the event is the average end customer order involves 6 different products, potentially from 6 different vendors. And some of that's going to be physical, typically, some of that's going to be through the cloud. The ability to kind of do all that through one interface, they're hoping, is going to make it easier for folks in their channels to sell more. There's going to be some machine learning that is looking at your purchasing history and your customer base and your usage of the platform. It's going to tailor the interface and what gets surfaced and is most visible to you around who you are and what you do and how you have been using the system in the past. They are also going to be watching your data so that they can do some analytics. And this is something that it feels to me like they're just kind of getting their toes into right now. But it was a big point of emphasis in interviews I had with Ingram executives and presentations on the main stage yesterday, that they really want to get good at diving into the data. They have a ton of data that they collect on orders and partners, and they want to be able to use that to be more proactive about opportunities that you as a partner have to serve your customers better, sell more to your customers better. And to kind of just spin out an example that somebody shared with me in a conversation yesterday, like if an analytics tool and a machine learning engine could see that customer X has ordered 10 more Microsoft 365 licenses, but shut down the firewall as a service, or it didn't replace an aging firewall or two. Like, it might be an indication that they're shutting down physical offices, but they're still growing, they're still hiring. So maybe that means they're working remote more often. Maybe that means there's an opportunity to bring some unified communications kind of offerings to them. So Ingram sees a big future for itself around analytics and being proactive and pointing out to partners through tools like Xvantage, here are some solution opportunities on the table for you to pursue. But this all begins this summer when this new Xvantage platform rolls out officially here in the US.
Very interesting. Lots to dive into here. First, I want to give credit to the folks at Ingram Micro for not naming it Vantage 360 or One Vantage or Vantage One. So kudos to your marketing team for doing that. Xvantage does seem a little interesting. Like, hey, we really want to call this thing Vantage, but that domain's taken. So if we put an X in front of it, does that mean we can? Yeah. But anyway, good, decent name. I like it. Like where they're going with that. On the surface, this all sounds good. Now, can you give us a little bit of insight, Rich, on like, does other distributors already kind of have a centralized portal like this, or is Ingram kind of blazing new territory here? We might have lost Rich, that or he just fell asleep. So we can put him up here. Oh, there we go. Now he's moving again.
Now we're back?
I think you're back. So did you hear my question?
I did hear the question, yeah. Okay. I am getting the internet connection is unstable message here, so we'll see if I stick around. So I can't answer that question categorically, Matt. I can't tell you for certain if the other distributors out there do or do not have something exactly like this. I mean, I'm sure they're working towards it. I know at TD SYNNEX right now they very much have their hands full bringing together two back-end infrastructures and even kind of getting everybody onto one ERP system, which they're hoping to begin doing very shortly here this summer. I'm less clear one way or the other about D&H. There are some things we'll get into actually in a moment that I do think are a little differentiating for Ingram right now, and it's quite possible that this platform is one of them.
Cool. Frank, are you an Ingram partner? Do you work with them?
We are actually not, mostly because, like Rich says, we found, distributors are hard to work with, and this is really, really, interesting to me. I'm going to be honest. We work with D&H, we work with some other smaller vendors, but, we used to be a big, I'm not going to name names, and we had nothing but issues. It'd be like, oh, we need to order this. And then the rep would be like, hey, why don't you add on this? And I'm like, that sounds amazing. And then it delays my orders 2 weeks. And my client's like, what the hell's going on? So, we got away with that. And it wound up being that, it wasn't in her department. It was in another department. That person was on vacation. Nobody else knew what we were even trying to buy from them at that point. And it was just a headache. And I'm like, we're going to streamline this whole process. we picked certain like items we sell, and we just only sell that, and it just made our lives so much easier. But we might be losing opportunities there. So something like this is really, really interesting to me, where it's like, hey, what haven't we considered? What are my other peers selling with this sort of solution that I'm not selling? Tell me. I like money, so you tell me what to sell and I'm going to sell it, but just make sure you can deliver it in a timely fashion. And it's really interesting.
Yeah, for sure. So the distributor we work with right now, they don't have a kind of a portal like this? What's the ordering process like?
But like I said, I don't dive into it too much because I find the water's all muddy. I go in, I know the couple pages I need, I have bookmarked, I buy from it, and I don't explore, and I find it's safer that way. But yeah, this will be really good for the industry, I think.
Cool. So Rich, talk about the AI part a little bit. It seems like if distributors are gathering a lot of data, maybe not necessarily utilizing a lot of it. Frank, Rich, do you think it could kind of get annoying if a big platform that's monitoring your transactions, customer history, so on and so forth is like going to be spamming you about stuff? Or how do they intend to control that?
No, I mean, I guess there are a few ways in which that there could be a backlash. I don't actually think there will be, but yeah. So on the one hand, there is the possibility that people feel like they have the sort of Facebook experience of you're watching everything I do, and I don't know if that potentially feels intrusive to people. I don't imagine that it would, but in a lot of things, it all depends on the execution, right? I mean, they could potentially spam part, like if they're pushing stuff at you all the time and it gets to be irritating, that would be a problem. If, on the other hand, your experience of the site keeps getting better because the site is more tailored to the way you actually want to use it, and you're not having to reconfigure it, it's just learning from your behavior. And if when you get a solution recommendation from the site, it makes sense, and it's something that that you do want to make some money from, and it's not extraneous and related to some vendor promotion that they're trying to tie. If it's valuable information, I think partners will be very appreciative of it. And if the execution is poor and it feels like I'm getting a lot of stuff that doesn't help me out pushed at me, then yeah, it'll be less popular.
Yeah, have they vowed to keep any of that data that they collect and conclusions that they reach? Is that private to you, or are they sharing that data with vendors and OEMs to go after you for marketing purposes?
Actually, that's a great question. I mean, for the most part, they're pooling data anonymously and using that to compare you and your customers to the aggregate, so that they can kind of isolate what's specific to you and who you sell to. But I don't know what the parameters are, or if they're any different really in relation to this platform to what they've been doing in the past with the data that they have about you and how much of that they share with vendors. I'm not certain how that works.
Yeah, Frank, would there be any concerns around the use of that data, or do you think it would be all kind of not a big deal?
It's not a big deal. Everywhere you buy from nowadays does the same thing anyway. Quite honestly, you go on Facebook, you're just, you're just their product basically, and they suck all your data and sell it off to the various different people that buy it. So, for me, honestly, what's the end result? Am I making more sales? Are my customers happy? I don't care. Take my data all day. Just, help me deliver on those two and everyone's happy.
Very cool. Rich, anything else you want to highlight on this one before we get on to our next Ingram story?
I think we're ready to move on.
All right. Well, let's do that. It sounds interesting, but like it. So I think there's more to explore in this Xvantage thing. I think it sounds really neat, but I think it needs to come out before we really see. We need to see what it really looks like and get somebody using it to get their opinion. Otherwise, it's just kind of, well, it could be good, might be good, might not be good. I don't know. We'll have to see how that goes. We are going to move on to something that they're spotlighting. They're talking about investments and partner success. What's that all about, Rich?
So this is from another story I posted this week, and it's a kind of a bigger picture look, in a sense, at what we were just talking about there. I mean, I kind of set things up by saying back in 2019, they said that, we're going to prioritize partner experience and and partner satisfaction. And at the very beginning of the show this week, a lot of what they talked to the audience about there was things that they have done in that area. And so, and it's not the things that they've been talking about, and even the Xvantage platform we were just talking about before, these are not inexpensive things to do. So it's not kind of a lip service thing to say that, hey, we are invested in you, our partners, and your success. I had an interview yesterday with Paul Bay, the CEO of Ingram Micro, and I asked him, can you, quantify or even just sort of characterize how much you're spending on this stuff? And he wouldn't go near that. He just said it's one of the biggest investment areas we have in the company right now. But you can kind of begin to get a sense for what it takes to put together a team big enough to develop not just this Xvantage tool and the flexible subscription engine I mentioned. There are going to be more tools coming along basically down the road. And one of the things Paul Bay told me in the interview yesterday was they're going to be coming faster now. Like, we really sort of ramped up that in-house development process in the 2020-ish sort of time frame. And we're at a point now where a lot of the stuff is going to be ready for market. And so you're going to see stuff coming at a rapid clip. Not inexpensive to create these tools. One of the things they did was inshore their customer support. So now, pretty much as I understand it, all of their customer support is coming from, if you're a U.S. partner, it's coming from inside the U.S. And so rather than outsource that function and lose a little bit of control over the partner satisfaction element of that, they brought it in-house. That, again, cost them a lot of money, but now they can control the partner experience around support, and they can kind of learn from where the problems are maybe in support and work on that. The investment that I most want to highlight, though, because this was really interesting to me. So back in February 2021, I wrote a story about this customer success organization that Ingram had launched. And I'll tell you the truth, I didn't think all that much about it at the time, because a lot of vendors have what is typically called a partner success organization. And at Ingram, they're calling it a customer success organization. And, the idea basically is we all kind of know what a partner account manager does. And ultimately, their job is to sell. A lot of vendors have a different team where their job is just to make the partner be more successful and happy and satisfied, and help them get value from the stuff that they're buying. And so because there are a lot of these programs out there, Ingram launched one, and I didn't, pay it that much attention. But I mean, they hired hundreds of people to staff this organization. This is kind of a big deal investment for them. And what these people are doing is working very hand in glove, working very closely with the partners to make sure that the end users these partners sell to are actually using and getting value from the products and services, especially the cloud subscriptions that they buy. Because it's a big problem, and I was talking with Jason Beal, who is the channel chief at a company called AvePoint, and he said, and I quote him on this in the article, channel pros are really, really good at new logo acquisition. They're good at selling stuff, finding new customers, implementing the new stuff. They're a little bit less good at making sure that customers really use that stuff, really get value from it. And then, the renewal conversation comes up, or it's time to refresh that hardware, and it's harder work because maybe the customer didn't actually even use the stuff, or maybe they used it so little of it that they don't really want to pay for it again. And so hundreds of people now in Ingram helping these partners make sure that the stuff that they sell gets used, that the customers are happy with it. And I mentioned Jason Beal from AvePoint. He said that they can actually measure the effect that this program is having, that they can, if they compare their Ingram partners to partners that they have who purchase through other distributors. And let me get this, I'm going to look this quote up real quickly if I can here, because I want to put this in his words. I thought it was so interesting. He said, as Rich Freeman stalls, just a few more seconds, assuming our website pops up this page. Yeah, here we go. Gosh darn it. Here we go. quote.
So of course, while Rich pulls that up and get ready, of course, I was a little late getting in this now, but of course, where Rich is going is channelpronetwork.com. That's where you can go not only to read this story and this quote that he's reading now, but all of these other stories and stuff that we're talking about, all are on the channelpronetwork.com website. Make sure you go there. If you're on your phone, open up the description area. Usually the links are in there. If you don't see that on your phone, it depends on what podcast app you use. If you don't see that in there, go to channelpronetwork.com, find the show sheet for 225, and you can read along as we go through this. If you're on YouTube, again, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, hit the bell, just hit all those buttons, and then leave a comment. Those are always very helpful. Make sure you do that, and open the description area there, and you'll see the links to all of these stories where Rich is going right this moment in real time to read to you. Rich, what is the quote?
You've all been waiting so patiently for this quote. The quote is, our metric for the number of services sold per partner is increasing, and the number of seats through Ingram partners is growing at a higher rate than with our other distributors. So more cross-selling, more selling in general, more retention, which is what this customer success program is all about. So, they spoke a lot from the stage about the investments that they're making. This is the kind of thing that distributors and other vendors do at their conferences. Here's how much we love you, folks. But it was interesting to kind of hear from, and it wasn't just AvePoint. I had conversations with other vendors as well, who have basically said that they find the depth, the scale of the investment that Ingram is making to be differentiating. It's interesting.
Very much so. Very interesting. Lots here to also kind of dive into. My first question to you, Rich, is how much of this investment in that they're doing with partners to improve the partner experience is a result of the big TD SYNNEX merger that's on the horizon?
So the answer to that, I would say, is very little. And the TD SYNNEX merger isn't on the horizon, by the way. That was about completed something like 7 or 8 months ago.
Well, I mean, like, as they kind of, they're still kind of separate. You know what I mean? Like, they're still working on bringing those together holistically, right? So I'm just wondering, is this a competitive thing? Like, they see that a fully merged TD SYNNEX is going to be a threat to them, or is this just other stuff that they've been working on the whole time?
So I didn't ask that when I was speaking with Paul Bay, but I did ask about Ingram being purchased last year for $7.2 billion by a private equity firm, and I mean, presumably that makes some more money available. And is this connected to your private equity ownership? And I think the answer he gave me to that question would be the answer to your question as well, which is basically that this has been our plan and our strategy for a long time. And in fact, I keep mentioning that, I heard about it first in 2019. So this is something that they've been thinking about since well before TD SYNNEX, well before the private equity acquisition. The private equity guys at Platinum Equity are 100% on board and supportive of the strategy. And I'm sure the fact that this strategy exists even factored into their decision to buy the company. But it's not their money that's making it possible. It's not the looming competitive threat from TD SYNNEX. This has been their plan for a long time.
Interesting, Frank. So what do you think about all the stuff that they're talking about? Good stuff for their partners, especially. I want to get your take too on what they're doing with, like, ensuring that your customers are successful in using products and stuff. Does your current distributors do anything like that, or do you think that would be a big advantage for you to take advantage of?
Yeah, this is amazing for us. One of our biggest challenges is, implementing new things, selling something, implementing it, but chasing people to actually use the products. It's a big, it's a big headache. And, quite honestly, we don't do enough of it. So when it comes time to renew things, they're like, oh, we didn't use that. Oh, it didn't work. And sometimes it's just a little, like, end user education that's needed, so that they understand the benefits and they understand why they're doing it and they understand how to do it. And we're not staffed to be tech babysitters, but sometimes they need that a little bit, when it's like, hey, we implement something new and then we find out 6 months later they're still using the old way, they're just not telling us. So really this will be really transformative, I think. Having a partner, really, this distribution, relationship, and that feels more partnerish, and that really, that would be, a reason for someone like me to actually look at what they're offering, look at how to work better with them. So that's going to be, good for them for, bringing on board new MSPs like us, but even just helping us to have those conversations with our end users about why they should renew, making sure they're using the product. That's going to be amazing. I think it helps them and it helps us.
Yeah, you don't want any of your customers to have a VCR with the clock flashing 12 on it, right?
Right.
It's, makes it hard. Yeah, I think utilization is important, and probably a big factor into customer satisfaction and their ability, their desire to buy new products and services through you, because they want to see and feel that value. So that's pretty interesting. Rich, anything else in here that is striking you as far as something cool to highlight while I lose my voice? Excuse me. I get all choked up about utilization, Rich.
Yeah, I know. It's an emotional topic, isn't it? Yeah, I just a few very quick words. Among the investments that they're making, and again, and in this case, I didn't actually ask. I should have asked to quantify this, but they did make a point of saying that financing is also another area where they're investing. And we were speaking recently, just last week, on the last episode of the show, when I was at that TD SYNNEX event, and TD SYNNEX was talking about how they are making financing available to their partners, especially the ones who are infrastructure heavy. And they're kind of caught in this, they're having cash flow issues because they're placing orders, but then they're waiting for the stuff to arrive because of the supply chain problems. And so TD SYNNEX is helping its partners deal with those cash flow problems caused by supply chain slowdowns. That's one way in which distribution financing can be very helpful. The other way that the Ingram folks here at the Cloud Summit emphasized is that if you are spinning up a cloud practice or trying to grow a cloud practice, it's a recurring revenue business, a subscription business. There are immediate expenses, but the revenue sometimes takes a little while to kind of build up and accumulate, and financing from a distributor can kind of help you bridge that gap. And so that's another area where they are investing for their partners too.
Very interesting. Frank, any last thoughts before we move on to the next story?
No, I wish I had gone to the summit. It sounds like there's a lot of great information there, and I'm definitely gonna have to check them out. I really like what they're, where they're headed.
Very, very cool. All right. Well, with that, we're going to move on to our next story. Rich, we don't normally cover personnel changes, but this one sounds like it's kind of a big one. So we can talk about it real quick. But good old Rodney over at Microsoft, Rodney Clark. Well, there's something in the news about him. What is the news?
In a way, this is like the latest step in a continuing story that we've been covering over the course of the year here. So Rodney Clark was the worldwide channel chief for Microsoft. And lo and behold, first part of this week, word breaks that he has left the company. He is going to be in I believe it was quoted as an executive office or executive position, so a senior position at another company that does a lot of business with Microsoft. This company hasn't been named. We'll all kind of find out where he's going. And he's barely been in that position for a year at this point, but it's been quite a year. The two really big things that were announced and are sort of ongoing during his tenure as head of the partner program are the new commerce experience, this big transition around Microsoft's cloud computing business and the cloud solution provider program and so on. And I was actually talking with an MSP here at the show just the other night, and he's still kind of ticked off about that. He can sort of understand why it's happening from a certain perspective, but it's costing him a lot of time and therefore money. First figuring it all out himself, and then explaining it all to his customers. And some of the customers are still trying to make up their mind. There's been a lot of work, basically, and continues to be a lot of work kind of making this transition. This is something that rolled out under Rodney Clark's leadership, and then more recently the announcement was made that they are completely overhauling, they're renaming and completely overhauling the partner program, and the sort of the tiering structure and the requirements to qualify for certain kinds of designations and so on. None of that goes into effect until October, and I think a lot of people are still even just starting to wrap their brains around that. We spoke with Dave Seibert on the podcast just a few weeks ago about that, but big changes under Rodney Clark's leadership in the program, and now he is exiting. And you don't really know what to make of that. And in fact, I don't think we will know what to make of that until we see where he lands and see how things kind of unfold from here going forward. It's like any one of us could sort of hypothesize about why he might exit this role, after not having it all that long. I mean, in my case, my first thought when I read this was, he spent the last 8-12 months being yelled at by, there are a lot of unhappy partners out there. And I met Rodney Clark when he was sort of in charge of IoT partner work at Microsoft. And it was just kind of immediately taken with him. He's a really nice person to speak with, and an interesting person. And I thought it was great news when I found out he was going to be running the partner program, because I just thought, here's somebody that the partners will enjoy working with. But he's made some pretty bold moves, and there are a lot of partners who are not very happy with those bold moves, and they've made that unhappiness known. So this could not have been an easy or pleasant job for him. I have no idea if that's why he's stepping out of it or not. But I kind of wanted to just bring it up on the program here, because in some conversations I've been having with folks here at the show, I'm not so sure that a lot of people picked up on that story when it broke before. There aren't people maybe who are aware there's going to be a change at the top, and we don't know who the next head of the partner program is going to be right now. That hasn't been announced. So a bit of a shakeup coming there, and just sort of an interesting next step in an ongoing saga as the Microsoft Partner Program kind of evolves into the future.
Yeah, no doubt that whoever is the channel chief over at Microsoft definitely impacts the SMB channel, because every partner is basically a Microsoft partner. Frank, what do you think? Do you think this is what do you think is leaving? This is good. Think this is going to be a good thing, bad thing? Kind of, what are your initial thoughts?
Well, I don't know the guy personally, but I know the last several months have been very frustrating for us, having a lot of conversations we never thought we'd have to have, explaining to stuff and trying to get people, to pick which way they're going. It's been frustrating. And anything that frustrates my clients that isn't directly from my business kind of pisses me off. We mess up, yell at me. Someone else makes me mess up or makes me make my clients make tough decisions. I don't like those conversations. I'd rather go, show up on my clients with donuts, make everyone happy. How's everything going? Great. It's like, oh, how's everyone going? By the way, we need you to commit to this. And it's like, oh, it's been tough. It was a big bureaucratic time suck that I didn't expect, and I never want to go through again. That being said, I'm really curious to see how it shakes out in 3, 6, 12 months from now, really see where we're at. And, Microsoft's always going to be, the big elephant in the room. We got to get along with them. We might as well just make that relationship as best as it can be. So I'm really curious, and I'm also really curious to see where he lands, quite honestly.
Yeah, we'll get to that in a second. Rich, did they say that they were going to have an office party for him on his last day? Will there be cake?
This was not in the blog post that announced this news, so I do not have an answer for you on that.
Well, if someone is at Microsoft, let us know how that going away party is, and mostly what the flavor of the cake was. I'm really curious to see which way Microsoft goes for a going away party. Chocolate, vanilla, lemon, maybe? Lemon. Frank, if you were going to do the ultimate going away party for an employee, what flavor cake would you use?
Well, if it was Microsoft, I wouldn't pick apple pie. I'm Italian. I go for cannoli, filling, something nice like that, some chocolate. We'll see.
We'll see. All right, good stuff. Good stuff. So Rich, okay, so now we can make predictions. So where is he going to land? So we know it's a good. So what did they say right here in the thing? New role said Microsoft executive officer, a publicly traded company that is a great partner to Microsoft. So now we can lay out our predictions, right? We don't have to necessarily make a bet for money, and we're going to have our audience do the predictions as well. But here on the show, where is he going to land? Rich, take a guess.
I couldn't even begin to guess. Really, I don't know. I'm going to guess a U.S. publicly traded company. Gosh, I don't know. I'm really not sure. I'm with you, Frank. I want to see. I want to know. I'm very, very curious.
Not even a guess. You got to take a guess. Pick a company. There's lots of them.
Well, I know, but it's like throwing darts. I'm trying to think like logically. What because he has that IoT background. He's well versed at this point in cloud. Yeah, I don't know.
Okay, Rich is gonna still think because I'm not letting you move forward without making a prediction. Frank, what's your guess?
I don't even know. Just nothing's coming to me. I don't know. I'm gonna have to wait and see.
All right, think about it. No, you guys are gonna make a guess. This is not that hard to come up with a guess. So let me throw this out to the listening viewing audience. If you're on YouTube, go to the comment area, make a prediction. Right, one company, make a prediction, and we're gonna look at the dates that are stamped. And if you guess after the announcement's made, then you're obviously gonna get it right. But if you make a prediction before the announcement's made, put that in there. And if you're listening, send us an email, podcast@channelpronetwork.com, or tweet to it at ChannelProSMB, and we'll watch that. If anybody gets it right, no promises. I gotta go see what we have, but maybe we can, Rich, grab one of the event T-shirts or something for the next show and send somebody a T-shirt if they get it right. I will make a guess because I can make guesses, right? I don't think it's going to be, as they said, Microsoft partner, so it's not going to be Google, it's not going to be Apple, it's not going to be AWS. I think he's going to land at, I'm kind of between HPE and VMware. Those are sounding good to me. So I'm going to go with Hewlett Packard Enterprise. He's going to end up there doing something with cloud. That's my prediction. Rich, pick a company.
I'm not going to do it.
You're not going to play along. Not at all.
No,
Just pick one tech
I have
company.
no idea what I really
You might get lucky. You might get lucky. Shot in the dark. Frank, pick a company. Any company.
All right, fine. You want Hewlett Packard? I'll go with Dell. We'll say.
So we got a guess for Dell. Rich.
Oh, for goodness sake. I don't know, man.
Rich is predicting that he's going to end up at Procter and Gamble in the Dove line of soaps. Okay, so he's going soap. That's what Rich is saying. Or maybe Campbell's soup.
Could be. Your guess is as good as mine.
So Rich is going either Procter & Gamble or Campbell. So listening audience, viewing audience, put your prediction below, and if anybody gets it right, we'll see. Maybe we can get you a T-shirt or something. So, man, getting you to play along is tough today, Rich. Holy moly. All right, let's move on to our next story. Meet the 2022 ChannelPro vendors on the Vanguard. Rich, tell us what the vendors of the Vanguard story is all about, and kind of set it up for us.
Okay, so Vendors on the Vanguard is an annual institution, I would say, in ChannelPro. We do this every year around this time of year, and this is something that I do, and I enjoy it a lot. It's actually a lot of fun because I get to go out and look for vendors who are maybe not name brands, lesser known, maybe up and coming, younger companies. We go out every year and we ask our readers, hey, if you know a vendor that you think doesn't get the attention that it deserves, let us know about it. And then we come up with a story. It's our cover story in the May issue of the magazine, where we provide some brief profiles of these companies, and hopefully it's food for thought for readers, some companies to check out. And so that story just went up on our website, ChannelProNetwork.com, this week. And you're muted.
Yeah, it's a good list, and I was muted. You're right. Sorry. I was going to say that there's a lot of good list of companies here. A lot of these I've never heard of, which is it's always fun to learn about some of the new ones. So why don't we pick maybe like maybe two to kind of talk about two of the more interesting ones?
Yeah, well, and it was interesting because this came up last week on the show, and we were speaking with Juan Fernandez. It came up a few weeks ago when Josh Weiss was our guest host. The topic of automation and automating managed services And in fact, I should give Josh Weiss credit because there are two companies on this list who came from him in that episode we did with him. I don't remember, or I don't know if you remember, he spoke about something called SIP, the Cyber Drain Improved Partner Portal, or CIPP or SIP. He mentioned that, and he mentioned another thing that he was really interested in called IMIBot. IMIBot is on the list. So SIP is a tool that is basically designed to be a multi-tenant, really MSP-oriented management interface for Microsoft 365. Microsoft has a management interface for 365, but it's single tenant, and that's obviously very painful. So there actually are a lot of these multi-tenant management tools and automation tools for Microsoft 365 that are starting to pop up. Josh is a big fan of SIP, and it seems to be developing kind of a cult following among other people as well. There's another one on the list, though, that I kind of came across called Spin Panel. Similar kind of thing, integrates with Autotask PSA, Intune, Azure Virtual Desktop. There's actually an Essentials, like an entry-level edition of it that's $7.50 per tenant per month. So that's one that I'll call attention to a little bit. There was another company, and I kind of want to know a little bit more about their product, but the vendor is called NanoHeal, N-A-N-O Heal, H-E-A-L. And this is utilizing artificial intelligence to do what they call predictive self-healing. So they are automating tasks like patch management, for example, but they're also automating compliance issues and security issues that pop up as they pop up. So taking some of that everyday remediation activity off of your hands and automating that. It works with Windows, Mac, Linux, Android, iOS. There's whitelisting and blacklisting function. It's actually a pretty kind of a Swiss Army knife sort of a solution, and looked interesting. And there are others on this list, other kinds of applications that folks out there can use to automate their business. And automation, it's this is the key to productivity and profitability, and it will also kind of free you up to spend more of your time having strategic conversations with your customers, which is something that I think we're going to be talking about a little bit later on the program. That's something that your SMB clients really appreciate these days.
Great. Frank, did you get a chance to look through the list? Did any of these kind of pop up to you as interesting? Why don't you pick one to talk about?
I only saw the list really briefly right before I came on. But, speaking to automation and all that, NanoHeal sounds really interesting. Another company I recently just signed up for at the Newark show was SuperOps, and all their AI-based alerting and everything. We're just getting started, ripping out an RMM and putting a new one in. That's something no MSP ever wants to do, but we found that it was compelling for what they were offering. And really, that sort of AI, just taking a lot of that off of our plates where, if it's something that, AI can say, hey, this is an issue, let's close this ticket so one of my guys doesn't have to. That's amazing. That's going to really, that's really where this industry is going. So, I'm definitely going to check out NanoHeal. That sounds amazing. And even the one that was the Office 365 multi-tenant, dealing with all of our clients with all their different, Office 365 deployments. Really, if there's a single pane of glass that we can just work in, that's going to be great for us too. And I really like all these emerging vendors. I feel like that's where we get a lot of our efficiency from. Like, they sometimes present the problem I didn't even know I had, and then I'm like, oh my God, this is an issue. Thank God someone has a solution for this. And that's why I love going to the shows and really seeing what's emerging.
Yeah, very true. A lot of times you couldn't actually said it any better, that you just do things the way you do because that's the way it's done, and you don't even realize that it could be done better until one of these companies comes along with a solution. It's like, oh my gosh, you're right. Yeah. I do spend 1 million hours.
Take my money.
Right. So I'll pick out one to talk about that I caught on the list, and that's P-Cloud. It's a backup and disaster recovery company. They're a cloud storage vendor, and I love this because I love it when people put their money where their mouth is, and they they gave white hat hackers 180 days to win $100,000 if they could crack its data encryption software. And no one succeeded. So I think that's a pretty good reason to go and check that out if you're looking for a cloud storage vendor. The prices seem reasonable, terabyte of capacity per user, shared folders, team collaboration, 180 days of file versioning, subscriptions, $9.99 per user or per month, or $7.99 when paid annually. That sounds kind of interesting. And that's a lot. 2,860 white hat hackers went at it, and that's a pretty good number of hackers all failing. So
yeah, exactly.
So very cool. So that's a good list. Rich, anything else on vendors of the Vanguard before we move on?
No, we will link to it from the show notes, and I encourage people to check the list out. I'm sure you'll find something in there that's worth investigating.
Yeah, very, very neat. Yeah, absolutely, folks. Make sure you go and check this one out, and check out the rest of these companies, because a lot of them sound really, really cool, including Blastwave. What a name, right? I love that name, Blastwave. All right, we're going to take a short break. When we come back, we're going to have Bob Takacs on. He's the research director at Analysys Mason. We're going to talk about SMB tech spending. Not going to want to miss it. It's going to be a great interview. Stick around. We'll be right back. And welcome back to part 2 of ChannelPro Weekly. Since the beginning of the pandemic, companies have been on a buying spree as they prepared workforces to work remotely. And with supply chain issues, companies have been getting orders in, just in case. But now that things are slowly returning to normal, where does that leave tech spending going forward? Well, here to shed some light on that is Bob Takacs. Oh, did I pronounce that wrong? I probably did.
No, that's fine. Bob Takacs. That's fine. Yep.
Takacs. Yep. I'm going to redo it because I want to get it right. Bob Takacs.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. You get to hear my little spiel one more time. And here we go. And welcome back to part 2 of ChannelPro Weekly. Since the beginning of the pandemic, companies have been on a buying spree as they prepared workforces to work remotely. And with supply chain issues, companies have been getting orders in just in case. But now that things are slowly returning to normal, where does that leave tech spending going forward? Well, here to shed some insight on that is Bob Takacs, research director at Analysys Mason. Welcome.
Thanks, Matt. Nice to be here.
It's great to have you here. It's also great to have you here amongst the living, because it looks like, if for those who are watching on YouTube, it looks like you've arrived at the pearly gates with that bright white background behind you.
Maybe I'll try to tone it down a little bit or move.
It's all good. It gives you a very angelic look, which is only going to help make your analysis even more credible. So, no, Bob, all kidding aside, Bob, it's great to have you here.
Yes,
why don't you go ahead and tell us a little bit more about you and what you do
sure.
at Analysys Mason?
Yeah, thanks. Thanks again, Matt. Yeah, Bob Takacs. I lead the SMB team at Analysys Mason. We focus on providing SMB insights to vendors and operators. We define small business 1 to 99 employees, medium businesses 100 to 999 employees. About 25 years experience in the tech space, and right now running the practice here at Analysys Mason.
Cool. So what kind of led you into getting into analysis and looking at like that side of the business as opposed to working in tech more directly?
Yeah, I think, I've done significant amount of consulting work over the time. And when you look at SMB, the ecosystem, this is where the big growth is for a lot of companies, and really the economic engine in a lot of economies. So there's a lot of opportunities, and certainly this is an area where, candidly, a lot of vendors and operators are trying to find insights to grow their businesses.
For sure. Well, I'll go ahead and kind of kick off the discussion, since we're kind of rolling right into that anyway. But we're talking about tech spending. Now, I think historically you might say since the start of the pandemic, tech spending has probably been up, as I said in the beginning, as companies were trying to get more laptops and more stuff and accessories to get workforces remote. Tell us a little bit about the kind of increase that we saw in spending beginning in 2020.
Yeah, I think, Matt, that's right. And I think what we've seen this year, and part of the narrative that we're saying, is that SMBs are getting back to business. And what does that mean? Well, they're doing the kinds of things that they did prior to the pandemic. So they're looking to expand their businesses. They're looking to hire more people. They're looking to grow their customer base. And as a result, they're investing in technology to help them do that. And they're prioritizing and putting those dollars in those types of solutions to help them grow. So that's I think the big takeaway that we've seen in our study, that SMBs are getting back to doing the things that they did prior to the pandemic.
Now, it sounds like, based on your study, that you're expecting remote work and accommodating remote workers to continue to be a top spending priority for SMBs. Is that correct?
Yeah, Rich, that's a good point. And what we see here is really across the board. And the study that we did, we interviewed about 1,149 SMBs across the U.S., Germany, UK, and Singapore. And what we found was that the remote work environment is going to continue. And we see that about 40% of those SMBs that we surveyed are going to continue having some kind of remote work. And that's given, and that remote work has caused them to allocate dollars into a lot of new areas that could create opportunities for vendors and operators.
Yeah, well, let's talk about that a little bit, because when everybody was sort of forced to work remotely 2 years ago at this point, there was a lot of spending on laptops and webcams and headsets and all the stuff that people needed to be on Zoom and Teams all day, basically. Is that spending wave done and we're into a different sort of remote work enablement phase right now, or did it really never end before and we're continuing to see people just kind of setting up the home workspace for their employees?
Yeah. I think what we've seen, Rich, is there certainly was a spike in those types of solutions. So we did see a spike in PC laptops, a spike in purchasing collaboration type of software. But I think what we see now is, some of that's going to continue. Where we saw, another big spike is in cybersecurity and those types of applications, and we see that that's going to continue. But where we see this now is in the whole managed service area, and being able to manage this remotely. And now that they have this remote workforce, now how do SMBs manage this? Because these are new challenges they didn't have prior to the pandemic. So what we've seen is this becomes a big priority for them. How do I manage my IT? And they're looking toward more of a managed service type of solution.
Hey, Bob, how has the supply chain issues and chip shortages affected spending over the last couple of years? Has it kind of kept it artificially high because stuff you can't get it, or is that hasn't been as much of a factor?
We've seen that, Matt, and certainly that impacted, in the pandemic, the ability for a lot of SMBs to purchase, laptops. And the supply chain issues are certainly issues that we're continuing to monitor in our forecast. And just as of late, some of the, economic headwinds that are occurring. So yes, those are certainly issues that we need to keep an eye on. And
one of the findings in the study is that among the US SMBs you surveyed, 40% of them say they're planning to add sites. So as much as remote work continues to be a top priority for these companies, the physical office, clearly hasn't gone away, and it sounds like there are going to be more of those. So do you have any sense, any anticipation for what kind of office-related technology spending we might see among SMBs going forward?
Yeah, and I think the U.S., when we look at the results from the U.S., certainly there was a lot of optimism, across the countries we surveyed. U.S. skewed a little bit higher than the rest, and I think when it came to looking at hiring, looking at adding new sites, skewed a little higher than that. So I think it's going to be, those types of solutions and tools to equip these sites. So PCs, again, the collaboration, the cybersecurity types of solutions, having, again, a managed type of solution is also going to be priorities for a lot of these SMBs. But there is something like 3/4 of the SMBs we interviewed are going to plan to have some kind of addition or add growth to their businesses.
Maybe to take a step back, because the headline, fact about the survey was that you were seeing optimism among SMBs worldwide, and especially in the U.S. And in the U.S., I think it was 61% of them saw a revenue jump,
Right.
Which is plenty of reason for optimism, and that wasn't certainly the case the year prior. When did you gather this data, and do you have any sense at all that there could have been changes since then, given all of the news about inflation in the headlines and the continued supply chain issues Matt was alluding to, et cetera?
Sure, and I think those are good points. We fielded the study back in we started in December, and we came out of the field in January. So there were some of the headwinds occurring, and in some of our forecasts we did have that baked in, but clearly there are other global events that are occurring right now that we believe for now it's kind of regionally oriented, but if it does spill over to Europe, for example, that's going to certainly impact our spending forecasts and our outlook. I think, to your point, Rich, the added inflation, the interest rates, supply chain issues, these are issues now that we're looking at. Our new forecast is due to come out in June, and some of these macro events that have taken place prior to that we're looking at and factoring it in. We'll be factoring it into our forecast. But I think what was interesting though with the optimism, and I think what we say is, if you're an entrepreneur, by definition, there's a level of optimism. And what was interesting is, even when we fielded this study in the height of the pandemic, there was something like 88% of SMBs were optimistic, which was a bit surprising. But then I think, again, being an entrepreneur, you are optimist. You have a degree of optimism. So seeing that increase to about it's close to 90%, and certainly higher in the U.S. Was kind of in line with what we saw prior.
I'd love to get Frank's opinion here too. So, Frank, we've talked a little bit about you're a little bit more on the forefront of this with your customers. So you can at least speak to kind of what your customers think, feel, and what you're providing and how they're spending. Were you seeing the same kind of increases in spending? And how, now talking about recent events, do you see, are your customers getting nervous, worried? Tell us about what you're seeing.
I don't know. Things are really good for us. Just this past Sunday, I've been chasing this one client of ours for 3 years that really needed to move to the cloud. He calls me on a Sunday. He's like, Frank, we've been talking about the cloud. He's like, it's time to do it. I'm like, why today? And it was just, he got this new sense. I've been trying, I couldn't get him to increase any spending in the last 2 years. And all of a sudden he calls me and I'm like, okay, this is the easiest thing. I'm not even being a sales guy. I'm being an order taker at this point. So, and across the board, like all of our clients are starting to open up that wallet and just spend money. And it's amazing.
Yeah, I think, Frank, just to jump in, I think, what you described, especially moving to the cloud, is certainly a trend that, what we see in our study results, that's a big priority for a lot of SMBs and cloud migration. I think what we saw is a lot of the dollars that might have been, not spent, now that this money's coming back, they're funding a lot of these digital transformation projects that might have been put on hold, or spending that might have been put on hold. So that aligns with what we've seen in our research as well.
Yeah, it makes me feel good because we've been marketing to these guys. We never stopped through the pandemic. We kept hitting them. We kept trying to get them to spend money. And now it's just paying off. It's like, oh, they were actually listening, and now they want to, do it. So it's great.
Yeah, good. That's great.
Yeah, it's a great sign. We may have just touched on them before, but you referenced headwinds, Bob, and headwinds. That word came up in the press release about this study when it came out. That, for all the optimism out there, there are some headwinds up ahead. And what are the big ones, and how serious are they in the minds of SMBs right now?
Yeah, I think, some of the ones, certainly that we mentioned, that I think are going to be, there. I think, we do have to monitor the rising, interest rates if capital becomes more expensive. I think what we also saw, as an issue, especially for the U.S. SMBs, is just finding talent. So, and maybe not so much a big economic headwind, but that's certainly a challenge for a lot of them. That they're trying to fund this growth, but just trying to find the right people is becoming difficult. We see that skew a little bit more in the U.S. than the other countries we looked at. I think the supply chain issues are still going to be something that will impact SMBs, and something that we need to and issues that we also are looking at and monitoring.
That also kind of gets back. You were talking about managed services and the interest in managed services before, and certainly the conventional wisdom is that the shift to remote work has gotten bigger SMBs. The SMBs big enough to have an IT person or an IT department interested in working with an MSP, to help with those remote management capabilities. That kind of it dovetails with this idea that talent is short. Basically, there are a lot of businesses maybe relying more than ever on partners because they have needs that they can't fulfill themselves, and that they simply don't even have the people maybe to fulfill themselves. So, I mean, in a certain sense, is it almost good news for a partner that there is a little bit of this talent shortage, in addition to the need for managed services, that they're going to be that much more important to their clients?
Yeah, absolutely, Rich. I think there is good news, and I would just say, I would temper that good news and just qualify it a little bit by saying, the SMBs that we did interview, many of them had switched their channel partners over the last 12 months. So we saw, globally around 37% have switched their channel partners. And when we dug a little deeper to ask why and what's important, it's that the SMBs right now are looking for, partners who could really help them in their business issues. So beyond just, there's a break fix component, but they're really looking for partners who could provide more continuity, more, looking at them like almost like a business partner to help them solve those challenges. So I think, it's important for channel partners to understand that in messaging and how you approach SMBs, to approach it within that mindset and within that context, because the work from home aspect is one of the top reasons what the appetite's for. So why do they change? What are they looking for? Well, partners that could help them, just what you said, Rich, in managing their remote workforce. And again, with that whole continuity type of mindset. And I think they want to be treated as having more of a consultative, more of a relationship. I think will also go a long way.
Frank, have you seen that as well? I mean, I'm sure that's something that a lot of your clients have wanted and gotten from you for a long time. But do you see more of an appetite for that kind of consultative, strategic advice that you can provide them?
Yeah, absolutely. I always tell my clients the first thing you should do when you're considering anything is to call us, instead of just bringing in, adding things on it that might not necessarily be IT completely related, but there's a lot of overlap sometimes. And I really try to get my clients to say, hey, just pick up the phone, call me. We'll tell you where this is going to fit in. We're going to tell you about any challenges you might have, things that you haven't even considered. Because I find when my clients get, they get this new idea, they want this new line of business, whatever it is in their head, they always forget to talk about their existing infrastructure, their existing processes. And really, we know their business as well as them. We pride ourselves on that. So really having them make that phone call initially, where we can say, look, this is great, but you also have to consider these other things you might have forgotten about. That really does make the entire process easier for them. And as a result, also makes it easier for me and my team.
Yeah, I think, Frank, what you described, is what they're looking for, and having that ability to talk in business language and being able to talk to them, in that providing strategic advice. Like you said, their business, and you're embedded, and I think that's important. And I think these SMBs right now are faced with a lot of issues that they weren't faced with, especially from an IT perspective, 18 months ago. So beyond just IT, but they're looking to how can I expand my business? How could this be used in more of a business? So any type of conversation around that, I think it's you just described. I think that in our research shows that's going to certainly resonate a lot better with SMBs.
Yeah, there was a reference in the press release when this report came out. It said that SMBs plan to invest in a variety of operational, sales, and innovation-related applications to support their strategic business goals. So can you talk a little bit more about the kinds of applications you're seeing interest in among SMBs and the role that folks in our audience can play in kind of designing and delivering solutions in those areas?
Sure. I think, when we look for, some of the business applications that they're currently using. So, productivity, accounting, collaboration, kind of ranked up, quite high in terms of the applications they're using. And I think, looking at the future, I think, again, those types of packages to help them run their business. So anything accounting, financial, was ranked number one in terms of planning for investment, being able to be more efficient on providing quotes and invoicing came out number two, and managing. Now that we're getting back to business, so to speak, the whole notion of travel and expense management is another area where they need help, and certainly what they're looking for in terms of planning their IT investment from an application perspective. So I think, again, it's helping them really manage their cash flow and being more efficient in that regard. I think it's going to resonate from an application perspective.
Bob, that's what SMBs want: innovation, line of business apps. But there's this other big vacuum of money called security that ends up needing to be spent on. What portion of tech sales going over the next year you think is going to be security related, as opposed to some of those other things you're talking about?
Well, we see security is going to, is certainly is certainly a priority, and security is another category that SMBs are going to continue to invest in, and quite candidly, the more they expand and the more especially from a remote work perspective, the need is going to be. We've seen that when we asked about the increase in cloud-based SaaS cybersecurity spend, we saw almost 50%. I think it was 48% said that they're going to increase their spending in those types of solutions. So there's certainly a big interest, and from an SMB perspective, there's going to be big investment in those areas.
Last week I was at a different conference, and I had a conversation just with a handful of partners. That a small sample size, kind of a one-time thing, but this was 4 companies, all of them like Frank. They're just kind of crushing it right now. They're doing really, really well. And yet you could detect there was just a little bit of anxiety, that this sense that, the good times can't last forever. Sooner or later, things are going to turn back in the other direction. And nobody was trimming their sails yet. And yet they were starting to think about that a little bit. But what are the needles that you look at? What are the indicators that tell you, that we might be headed for a slowdown at some point? And is there anything in the data that you have available to you now that says, there's cause for caution?
Yeah, I think, good point. And I think, when we build our forecast model, we certainly, one of the big inputs is the macroeconomic data. So we look at, GDP growth. We look at, a lot of the big factors when we're building the model. So we're certainly taking that into account. I think from the study perspective, I think there's certainly momentum within the SMB space that we see currently going on. In terms of their spending, their revenues have been up. They're investing in IT. They've reallocated some of their internal costs like travel and entertainment. They moved those dollars into investing in IT solutions. So I think they've put some of the spending off now. So they're investing in how do I grow? How do I so I think in that regard we see that continuing. However, there are we are monitoring some of these macroeconomic events and the extent to which that may cause some kind of slowdown or reallocation. But for the most part, we see that those at least from a priority perspective, those SMBs still have there's still a need for managed services, still a need for having cybersecurity. They're still investing in those types of solutions.
Frank, are you seeing, within your clients a reallocation of budget basically towards technology projects? I mean, I'm not a big fan of the digital transformation buzz phrase, but there is this idea that in the business world, big businesses, small businesses, processes are getting modernized and digitized and so on, and you got to spend money to do that. Are you kind of seeing that among your clients, or is the increased spending that you're experiencing more in sort of conventional IT sectors?
No, like you said, I feel like the pandemic really opened up their eyes to what's capable, because all of a sudden, they had to transform. It was no longer us pushing it, saying, this is going to change your business. This is going to be amazing. All of a sudden, they were in survival mode and they had to accept, things we've been pushing for 4 or 5 years now. And really, we went through, they were able to work from home, do what they needed to do. And they're like, wait a minute, you were telling us about this a couple of years ago. What else do you have that, you can help us with? And it really has been, so much easier having those conversations, saying, look, we got your remote access work and we got this, everything that you needed. But now there's this whole other level of stuff that we want to help you to that next level to get to. And now they're just so much more receptive to those conversations.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think one of the things we saw during, when we fielded the study during the pandemic is there were two types of mindsets, and to Frank's point, the pandemic forced a lot of SMPs to do things differently, and certainly to look at IT and make investments. And we saw two big shifts in behavior. We saw those that adapted, and we saw those distinctions, and those were SMBs that they might have reallocated their IT priorities, but they saw the value in IT and invested to keep their businesses going. And then on the other side, the other behavior we saw was that there were just cost cutters, and what they did was just look at it strictly from a cash flow and do what they had to do to keep the lights on. And now what we've seen is kind of a redefining of that. And now, to Frank's point, a lot of these SMBs saw the value of technology, and they're using it to again getting back to business and doing the kinds of things and that they did pre-pandemic, and those types of priorities like growth, like hiring, like expansion.
Yeah, it's interesting because there's been this sort of age-old idea that once upon a time IT was regarded as a cost center within businesses. Years ago, we started talking about how more and more businesses recognized it as a potential source of strategic advantage and so on. And it sounds like that's something that got accelerated by the pandemic. The idea that IT is an investment in growth as opposed to a cost.
Yeah, I absolutely, and I think again, underpinning a lot of this too is what we talked about earlier, the work from home piece. Now that the work model has changed for many, so they're really rethinking how they could use that their investments in IT and seeing the benefits of where it could be those investments could be used.
Do you have any, so based on everything that we've been talking about, all of the data that you've collected here, if you were to kind of send folks in our audience away with, some advice, a call to action, here's what you need to be thinking about based on this research, what might you do or tell them?
Yeah, I think, Rich, at a high level, overall there is an appetite, for IT and solutions that could help them expand their business and for growth. So I think, that's point one. So being able to message and position your brand in a way that could help them grow their business. I think also from a channel perspective is what we discussed earlier, speaking in that business sense and providing that account management and account relationship, if you would. I think it's going to really score a lot of points and really resonate with a lot of SMBs, because that's the type of relationship they're looking for. And I think it's just overall, being there and being able to provide that type of strategic advice for them as they move forward and to help them navigate whatever may be in the future, from some of the headwinds that we've seen.
Very good. Frank, I want to give you a chance to comment on that. Does that sound like sage advice, or do you have anything to add?
No, absolutely. So to Bob's point, what we really try to do, even in our marketing messaging, is just, to try to have that higher level conversation instead of talking about gigabytes and megahertz and all that other BS that just people's eyes glaze over and they really don't listen to. Have those, business discussions. Learn to, communicate with the C-suite and really just integrate yourself as such an important part of their team. It really does change the whole dynamic of your IT relationships, with your clients. And it really has, we've been having these discussions, like I said, for years now. But, now with the way things are going, it really does just, make us a valuable part of that team. And then, good things happen for everyone. We help them transform, we get amazing growth and everyone's happy.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Well, great stuff. And unfortunately, we are out of time. But Bob, I want to thank you so much for coming on and talking to us. Really, really good conversation, neat insights, good advice to walk away with. If anybody wanted to catch up with you, connect with you outside of the show, ask you questions, where can they find you? How can they get in touch with you?
Yeah, they could contact me through Analysys Mason. So Bob Takacs at analysysmason.com. And yeah, we'd be more than happy to share any of the insights or certainly continue the conversation.
Awesome stuff. Well, thanks again for coming on. I hope we get you back someday. We're going to take a short break. Frank's going to be joining us on the other side to break down the show. We'll have a little bit of fun with him, and Rich will try to predict the future, but he's not really anywhere near as good as Bob is. I'm not going to lie, but he'll try. He'll try to tell you what's going to happen next week, and that's as far out as he goes. So stick around for that. We will be right back. And welcome back with part 3 of ChannelPro Weekly. Frank Bravata is still with us after the interview. Rich, awesome interview. Anything you wanted to kind of highlight from that?
No, just that, it's further reinforcement for things that we've been saying a long time here at ChannelPro. If you're not, like doing quarterly business reviews with your clients, you should be. If you're not developing like industry expertise so that you can have a business dialogue with your customers, you should be. And just very encouraging to hear that the mood is optimistic among or within SMB right now.
Absolutely. Frank, anything you wanted to highlight or any takeaways from that interview?
No, it really is good to see that the enthusiasm's there. people are finally moving to the cloud, like we've been talking about for 3, 4, 5 years sometimes. Really, the pandemic really shifted their mindset about the whole thing. And it's really good to finally see that these companies are doing what they should do, what we've been telling them for a while. It's a little bit of justification, I'm not going to lie.
Very cool. And a big thanks to Bob for coming on and talking to us. Great interview. Hopefully we'll get him back down the road when we're doing other kind of prediction stories and looking at data and trying to figure out the future. So, Rich, I know we're kind of in a little bit of a time crunch, but I think we have enough time to get a quick game of 5 questions in. Frank, it's a game that we play with a lot of our guests. Basically, Rich and I are going to ask you 5 quick rapid fire questions, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, back and forth. Guaranteed they'll be off topic, but the shtick is we can't write them in advance. We have to think of them on the fly. So sometimes they get a little crazy, but no, nothing to embarrass you. No gotchas, just to learn a little bit more about you and have some fun. You ready?
All right, sounds good.
Let's do it. Rich, question number 1 to you.
So in the spirit of quick 5 questions, Yankees or Mets?
Mets, absolutely.
Ooh, going Mets. All right. I will ask this question. So you spent a lot of time in the military. You ran your business, but you said you had 4 kids. Any advice that you can give to others who are business owners like you, trying to raise a lot of kids while also doing this at the same time? Any advice?
My advice: make a lot of money, get a lot of people to help you, because that is the number one thing. I outsource everything. I don't even let it bother my ego anymore. Someone cleans my house, someone opens my pool, someone mows my lawn. It gives me time to spend time with my kids on the important things and not running around just doing something I could pay someone $20-$30 an hour to do.
Good advice. Rich, question number 3 to you.
So you mentioned Cancun, you mentioned Aruba. You're a fan of the beach. What is your favorite beach in the world?
My favorite beach in the world, I love Hawaii. I actually almost moved to Hawaii in 2000. I still regret not doing it. Everything worked out. Love my kids, love my family, but Hawaii might ultimately be my retirement, place. Just don't tell my wife I haven't broken it to her yet.
All right. I'm in New York and I'm looking for a restaurant to eat. What's your favorite restaurant?
My favorite restaurant is Vincent's Clam Bar. There's one in Little Italy. There's also one I go to a lot in Carl Place. I love it. There's always celebrities there. You see old-time Mets players, which I love. One of the Sopranos actors actually hangs out there. It's great. But the food is amazing. They give you big portions. It's served like family style, and it's just the best place to go.
Awesome. Sounds good. Rich, question number 5 to you.
So I did not serve in the military, therefore I never acquired a military nickname. Did you have a military nickname? And if so, what is it?
No, I was in the Army. I did wish I was a fighter pilot, so I would have had one of those cool, monikers, but I didn't get one. But, I worked in the IT shop. We were just called Camo. That's what we were all called. And, that's what we answered to.
All right. Well, very good stuff. Thanks for playing that quick fire. Next time we have you on, we'll make sure we ask you some questions we can learn a little bit more and kind of do some deep dive with you. But in the interest of time, before big burly people come into that conference room and rip Rich right out of it and throw him onto the floor, we needed to play that quick. So, Rich, tell us what we might have missed last week and what might be coming up next week.
Well, you know what? If I had a little bit more command of time and space, I could simultaneously have been at this Ingram show and Lenovo's Accelerate conference and Veeam's VeeamON conference, which also took place this week. Couldn't pull that off. So James Gaskin is going to summarize the news from those 2 big conferences for you this week in our In Case You Missed It post, which he writes for us every Friday on ChannelProNetwork.com. He's got all that news for you. A new data protection solution for Kubernetes containers actually was announced at the Veeam show. There's also a new desktop as a service solution from NetApp. And James has got all the details for you about what happens when you combine Amazon Alexa with a toddler. The answer is 31 cheeseburgers, but how you get there is worth reading about. That'll be in Case You Missed It post coming up Friday, as it does every Friday, ChannelProNetwork.com. Coming up next week, for me, nothing but sunbathing and cocktails. I am on vacation next week, folks, so I will not actually be on next week's episode of the show. We'll have an episode, though. Matt will be here. He can tell you a little bit about how that's going to work. The industry doesn't stop going when I take a vacation, though. The ASCII group is going to be doing a show in Boston, and there's some other news tidbits coming up next week as well. Yep,
working on next week's episode. It's always scary when Rich is in here because I got to plan it all and do it all, but I'm looking to nail down a guest to do it with me. And we're gonna have a fun interview. I'm gonna try to arrange an interview with Jeff O'Hare. He's our new community manager here at Channel Pro. It'd be nice for you to learn about him and get to know him. So that's the plan. But plans change, so you'll just have to tune in next week and see what actually happens. Big thanks to Frank Bravata, president of Cyber Brigade, for coming on and guest hosting with us today. It was a pleasure having you here. I hope you had fun.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun. Hope to do it again sometime.
Fantastic. And for our audience who'd want to connect with you, get to know you, reach out to you for some reason, where can they find you? How can they do that?
Easiest way is on Instagram, just at Frank Bravata, or on Facebook, same name. I'm all over the place. Just find me on my name. Nice and easy. Search for him on the socials and you will connect with them. Of course, go each and every week to channelpronetwork.com. That's where you find the latest news, articles, white papers, downloads, all kinds of stuff to help you keep on top of what's going on in the industry or help make more money, which is also important. Subscribe to the ChannelPro Weekly podcast everywhere podcasts are found. If you're on YouTube, again, subscribe, hit the button, all that stuff, and do that. But Rich is about to get thrown out, so we are going to wrap this up. And thank you, everyone, for tuning in. We'll see you all next week. Take care.